Time governs every aspect of our lives. It flows endlessly forward, giving structure to existence, driving the movement of galaxies, the ticking of clocks, and even the beating of our hearts. But what if, for one extraordinary day, time itself froze? Imagine waking up to find that everything and everyone around you had come to a complete standstill. Cars are locked in place mid-motion, conversations are suspended mid-sentence, and rivers hang in the air, their waters frozen in time. And yet, for some reason, you're unaffected. You are the only person who can move in a world that has come to a halt. For 24 hours, you exist outside the normal rules of time, free to explore a universe where nothing else moves. This concept may seem like science fiction, but it raises profound questions. How could such an event even happen? How would you survive in a world where the fundamental processes of life are paused? And perhaps, the most interesting question of all, what would you choose to do with your time? To understand whether time could freeze, we first need to understand what time actually is. In physics, time is not an independent force or a ticking clock in the sky. It's a dimension, much like length, width, and height, forming the fabric of space-time. Time moves forward because of entropy, a concept from thermodynamics that describes how systems tend to move from order to disorder. Every process in the universe, from the motion of planets to the chemical reactions in your body, is tied to entropy. If time were to freeze, entropy would have to stop completely. This means every molecule, atom, and subatomic particle would become completely still. Light would freeze in place, sound waves would stop propagating, and even the electromagnetic forces that power your devices would shut down. But here's the paradox. If time stopped universally, you wouldn't be able to move either. Your body's chemical reactions, which rely on the passage of time, would grind to a halt. For you to function in a frozen world, you would need to exist in a kind of time bubble, where your internal processes continue unaffected by the frozen universe around you. This concept defies everything we currently understand about physics, but as a thought experiment, it allows us to imagine the impossible. Our bodies are finely tuned to function in a dynamic environment, relying on the flow of air, the movement of molecules, and the constant exchange of energy. If time froze, these processes would be disrupted in ways that are both fascinating and terrifying. Oxygen reaches your lungs because air molecules are constantly moving. In a frozen world, those molecules would stop, leaving you surrounded by a static, unbreathable atmosphere. Without a mechanism to generate oxygen within your time bubble, you would quickly suffocate. Perhaps your body would develop a way to recycle the oxygen already in your lungs, or your time bubble would carry an air pocket with you, allowing you to breathe. Both vision and hearing depend on motion. Light is a wave that travels through space, and sound is a vibration that moves through air. If time froze, these waves would stop mid-travel. The world would become completely dark and silent, as no light would reach your eyes and no sound would reach your ears. To perceive your surroundings, you would need a way to interpret static light or detect objects without relying on normal sensory processes. Movement requires energy, and energy comes from food and water. But in a frozen world, you wouldn't be able to eat or drink, as everything would be locked in place. Your body would need to rely on its stored energy reserves or operate using entirely different biological mechanisms, ones that don't depend on the laws of thermodynamics as we understand them. These adaptations would make you an anomaly in the frozen world, a being that defies the natural order of the universe. A world where time has stopped would look surreal. Imagine stepping into a perfectly detailed photograph. Trees would be frozen in the wind, their leaves hanging motionless. People would be paused mid-action, their faces locked in expressions of surprise, joy, or frustration. Rivers, oceans, and waterfalls would become static sculptures, and flames would hang in the air like glowing statues. However, interacting with this world would be anything but normal. Most modern devices rely on the movement of electrons. If time froze, electricity wouldn't flow, rendering phones, computers, and vehicles completely useless. Moving through the frozen world might feel strange. For example, pushing through still air could feel like moving through a thick gel. as the molecules wouldn't part and flow as they normally do. Gravity is a fundamental force that wouldn't be affected by time freezing. Objects would still fall if you dropped them. The process might feel different due to the frozen state of surrounding particles. The world would be eerily silent, with no hum of activity or background noise. It would be a haunting, otherworldly experience. In such a world, the possibilities would seem endless. You'd have an entire day to act without anyone seeing, judging, or interfering. But this raises a critical question. How would you choose to use this unique opportunity? One of the most exciting possibilities would be to explore places you'd never normally access. You could walk into restricted areas, explore hidden treasures in museums, or stand atop skyscrapers, taking in views that no one else could experience. You might even try breaking into bank vaults or secret government facilities, satisfying your curiosity about what's behind closed doors. The frozen world would offer a rare opportunity for uninterrupted reflection. With no distractions, you could think deeply about your life, your relationships, and your goals. You might use the time to plan for the future or gain clarity about the things that truly matter to you. You might feel tempted to manipulate your surroundings. Moving objects, setting up surprises, or arranging people into humorous poses could be entertaining. For example, imagine placing someone in an entirely different room or giving a colleague an elaborate stack of books to hold. However, this also raises ethical concerns. Would it be right to interfere with people's lives when they have no agency? Perhaps you'd use the time to help others in subtle ways. You could prevent accidents, deliver items to those in need, or fix problems that no one else could solve. Imagine moving someone out of harm's way just before an accident or leaving supplies for a struggling family. The temptation to indulge in harmless pranks would be hard to resist. From harmless rearrangements to creating humorous situations, you might enjoy a moment of levity in an otherwise eerie scenario. However, this approach might feel empty without anyone to share the joke. Ultimately, what you do with your time would reflect your values and priorities. Would you focus on personal gain, helping others, or simply exploring the unknown? The idea of time freezing is purely hypothetical, but it challenges us to think about the very nature of existence. What would it mean to live in a world where time stood still? How would you survive, adapt, and make the most of the opportunity? Perhaps the greatest lesson from this thought experiment is not about physics or biology, but about how we value time itself. In a world where you had 24 hours of freedom, would you act selfishly, focus on others, or simply enjoy the silence? And when time resumed, how would those choices shape the person you become? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating content. Share this video to your friends and family. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.